Hey y'all, what up? It's Daniel, Chicago Cane Cooperative, here on site. This is Chicago and it's nice out. We take advantage of it, so we don't get a lot of this. So, as promised, yeast part 2. And of course I've got the puppy here, I'm on single parent duty. Okay, so if you watched part 1, you know that we use a Kveik yeast at Chicago Cane Cooperative to make our spirits. Kveik, K-V-E-I-K. It's Norwegian for quick, like quickening yeast. It quickens your bread, get it? Okay, so what makes Kveik so special? It truly is special. They're their own family of yeasts from Western Norway. You know, we're talking about a brewing tradition that goes back over 1,000 years in this part of the world. So these yeasts have been passed down from generation to generation for well over 1,000 years, which is crazy. And it's part of the domesticated Saccharomyces cerevisiae strains of brewer's yeast, of continental brewer's yeast, but they're their own branch, just like the British yeasts are their own branch as well. And of course, there are wild analogs to Saccharomyces cerevisiae, but Kveik are a branch of the domesticated Saccharomyces cerevisiae families. So what's crazy about these yeasts is that they have been used in this part of Norway for hundreds of years, and they're their own little family. They're all related to one another, but each little pocket has their own distinct characteristics, and they're all Kveik yeast. They all form this one family within Saccharomyces cerevisiae. The mass-produced modern beer yeast that we have, funny enough, that started with Carlsberg in Denmark. Everyone's using the same strain of baker's yeast or the same strains of brewer's yeast that are standardized and then spread from there. So that means that we lose a lot of these heritage yeasts that are kept, you know, from family to family, from generation to generation in a jar or in a bag somewhere, just because it's easier to go down to the store and buy the baker's yeast and use that instead. But generally speaking, people who have access to mass-produced bread yeast from a supermarket, they will just stop upkeeping their strain that they got from their grandma, their grandpa, their neighbor, whoever. And the reason that these yeasts survived in this part of Norway is because this part of Norway is so remote, they didn't have access to these kinds of markets, which is really crazy. So these parts of Norway that are really remote, little valleys and fjords, I'll try to throw up pictures, these people just kept using their grandma's yeast. They couldn't go to the store and get baker's yeast. They kept using their grandma's yeast, their neighbor's yeast, their uncle's yeast, whoever. And that means that these yeasts have been isolated from the rest of the European yeasts and shaped to do what the Norwegian brewers do. And so what's really special about these yeasts that's taking off in the beer industry now is that they can ferment at really hot temperatures, they can ferment at really high ABVs, and they give a lot of like really lovely fruity flavors without giving phenolic off flavors. They're POF negative, unlike Saison yeasts and Hefeweizen yeasts that are very POF positive. Hey, it's Editing Daniel real quick here, over here editing the video and standing in my leg braces at the moment. I wanted to come in real quick on the Kveik rings that people use, or yeast rings more broadly, that we use. We're using them now. It is a traditional method of how these people kept Kveiks alive. It is one of the several methods. It's literally a braided wooden ring that people dry the yeast on. I'll put some B-roll here of photos and videos that we got recently at the distillery. We're really excited because doing it this way means that because of genetic drift and using the yeast over and over again, we'll kind of start to develop our own version of this Kveik that we're using, and hopefully as well as the Pombe yeast that we're using that can both be dried and reused, unlike several other beer yeasts. Really cool leaning into this heritage method of managing the yeasts. I hope the photos and videos that I'm putting up now kind of help illustrate the point. Very cool to see the ring. You put it in the starter and just immediately off that ring you get bubbles. It's crazy to see this yeast work so well. You immediately throw it in there and just immediately goes to work. It's absolutely bananas. It's so cool. Yeah, just wanted to come in on that. We love this in our rum. The tropical notes are incredible. The fact that it can ferment really fast at high ABV is incredible for us. But it's not just how good it is at fermenting. That's a huge part of it. But the other really big part of it is the fact that we're using heritage yeast. This feels like we're connected to a tradition that goes back a really long way. And Chicago in the Midwest has a deep connection with Scandinavia anyway. There's a lot of folks that settled around here from Sweden, Norway, Denmark. They're really cool yeasts. They have this really great story, and we love using them for multiple reasons. So that's it. Stay tuned for part 3 on the Pombe yeast, which is the other yeast that we use. With that, peace, mucho amor. Cool, okay. I think that was it. I'm gonna call that good. Mochi, you're too hot. Let's go inside.